Hi everybody, this is Alchemist2, and I'm back again with another book review. I just recently finished reading Diary of a Teenage Girl, which is written by Phoebe Gloeckner. It's about a girl named Minnie Getz, and it takes place during the libertine era of the 1970s, and it follows on the heels of the whole free love kind of campaign that was going on after the 60s, and the 70s was more about drugs, trying new things that weren't exactly good for oneself. And it's kind of tragic. Actually, it's very tragic. It's very stringent. It's brutally honest. It's nerve-wracking and unnerving and very disturbing in many places. Notwithstanding, I actually enjoyed the book in and of itself, even though there were points that I was really depressed when I had been reading it, and I felt sorry for Minnie. However, I think that in the end it had sort of a bittersweet sort of conclusion. Didn't really feel like it had much of a denouement, honestly. But in and of itself, the ending made me feel a semblance of happiness for her after everything that she went through. Her mother divorces her father, Pascal, and she has correspondence with Pascal through letters. And I know that seems very archaic to us now, and actually it doesn't to me, because I have a lot of correspondence with my favorite uncle by letter, because he prefers using a typewriter. He's kind of a Luddite in that way, but I don't hold it against him. I'm kind of a semi-Luddite in a way, but not entirely. I don't really trust too terribly much in technology, but anyway, that's a subject for another review. I've already done that many times before, and I doubt you want to hear it again, but the book in and of itself is very forthright and honest, and even to the point where there were moments that I actually got a little bit squeamish reading the book, and I'm usually iron-stomached, and my resolve is of steel. So I don't understand why that happened, but she basically, the entire mechanism of the story in and of itself is that she falls for her mother's significant other, or her what I would call her stepdad, and she even goes so far as to having sex with him, which in no sense do I condone, but you know, I don't hold it against her. And she even judges herself in the book, calling herself a slut and a whore, and etc. And she's just like any of us. She's longing for affection, and she doesn't know how to go about it. She goes about it in all the wrong ways, and all the friends that she chooses, and the people in her life, and just the amount of sexual partners that she has. She's very precocious, and she's only 14. And I was flabbergasted. I was dumbfounded by the amount of sex that she had, and it just is mind-boggling. Yeah, it's very, very good. It's actually a very interesting book, and it's if you're interested in psychology and the mannerism in which teenagers think, then this is a very good book. And not all teenagers are the same. Granted, I'm not going to make that kind of hasty generalization as a fallacy of logic. I was taught better in my critical thinking class. Dang it. This book is extremely well done, and I have to say that I did enjoy it. It's just that there's certain parts that it was really hard for me to get through, but it had to be read. And I think that all teenage women should read this book, and it's a cautionary tale, basically. And it shows how there are some parents out there that should not be parents, and Minnie's mother was one of those people, and she didn't even touch Minnie, which I thought was absolutely atrocious and despicable. How could you not want to touch your own child. I'm serious. I mean, I'm not a mother. I'm still single. I don't have any significant other. I want to be a mother someday. I want to be a good mother. Hopefully I will be. But I just don't understand why a parent, somebody with their own flesh and blood, would not want to take their child and nurture them in that way. And she has no real role model. Her mother is doing really idiotic things. I'm not going to say what those things are, but she just really doesn't have that solid foundation to build on, and that's why she does what she does. And it makes sense. It's very logical in the way that her life is depicted through her diary. And it's very intimate, and it's very sensual in the way that it's written. And there are some parts that, you know, kind of take you back and take you by surprise. You think, wow, she's really going all out here. But it's a very intriguing and fascinating book that will keep you intrigued. It will keep you just absolutely transfixed, I think. I was just mesmerized by it, and I was horrified, and yeah, I was actually very there were parts of it that I thought, how could she be that naive? But I understand why she was, and she redeems herself too. I feel that she does that in a very good way. Like I said, the ending, the climax after the denouement, was kind of a very quick release of everything, and she finds her confidence, I believe, and that's how I understand it, and she realizes her own self-worth through everything that goes on with Monroe, her stepdad. But still, it's very interesting how she comes about coming to that understanding and everything through her and her intellect. She's very brilliant. She's a bright person. She's got a lot going on for her, intellectually speaking. She comes across as a philosopher of sorts, and just her existentialism. It's yeah, it's like I said, it's utterly fascinating. And if you want to read a book that's kind of like a psychology manual, this is it. This is very revealing about the time in and of itself, the era in which it was written. And I don't know how things have changed now, because, you know, I have a life of my own, and I don't really see what goes on in the world, the quote-unquote a world, per se. I don't think that there are many teenagers who do this sort of thing. I'm sure there are, but this is just case in point for parenting gone wrong, and etc., and just looking for outlets, basically, with so-called friends who don't really help you make the right decision. It's just, yeah, it's a very well-written diary, and just absolutely tremendous and depressing, but still an extraordinary book and astronomically written, and I enjoyed it immensely. And I'm not going to see the movie because I know I don't have to. But other than that, I have to say that it was just very, very good. And I highly recommend it, especially to anybody who has teenagers. And the subject matter might be a little bit brusque and very detailed and kind of stomach-churning at points, but it's written in a very raw way and honest. So I did like that. I enjoyed the fact that she didn't mince words. Still, everybody who has teenagers should read this book, especially people who, I think anybody who is going to become a parent should read it too. I mean, I know it's kind of a little bit rattling at times, but still, it's this will help you. Well, there's still going to be mistakes that you'll make. I mean, who doesn't? We're all human, but it's very open about that, and I enjoyed that for what it was, and savored everything that I read. And of course the illustrations are great too, and her comics are also very different, I thought, very revealing about what was going on in her brain. And her mind is extremely complicated. She's a very multifaceted being, but so are we all, and I think that's why we can all relate to it.